count of three. One, two.
Come one, come all, to another edition of Sly and JBell Review Moving Pictures. Of course, as always, we have me, Sly, and to my left, the infamous JBell.
Welcome, folks.
Known the world over for his nefarious deeds.
Yeah, we're dressed up today because I'm coming just from, get this, kind of day job. I don't just do this stuff.
Yeah, the boatloads of money we're making.
Oh, goodness.
Monetizing this shit, right?
Of
course, because I'm kind of convinced that all of the views we have on these videos are just like us and us showing them to somebody else. Like maybe other breathing human beings are watching it, but who knows? But today we are going to be talking about Venom, or as Eminem calls it, Vroom! With no vowels whatsoever. I couldn't explain to you why, but god damn, that was the worst song I've ever heard.
Put a tack in that, because we're definitely gonna come back and talk about that wonderful treat of an Eminem song as the credits roll.
Oof.
My goodness,
man.
Where do you want to start with?
Well, I know this is going to be a little bit different than Predator, because I know there, at least, I kind of had fun with it, and you thought it was a steaming pile. So there, at least with this one, I think there's going to be a little bit more, shall we say, congruence of opinion.
I would expect,
which was unfortunately overwhelmingly negative. I really wanted to like this.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of negative before we went in, and I was interested in seeing it because I was just thinking, this guy doesn't generally do crappy movies. Like
that's right.
And I was like, it can't be as bad as everybody's saying. And it was.
Well,
it kind of was. So I mean, for me, I don't know where we necessarily want to start. I can at least say the cast of characters was kind of goofy to me to begin with.
What do you mean by the cast of characters?
So it was just so hokey the way it played out. So you've got you've got the evil genius, you got the band of nerds huddled around computers and testing stuff on people.
Yeah.
Just
a lab doing science.
Yeah, and I remember saying, I think it was after the movie, we were out in the parking lot, and I was saying, let me get this straight. These apparent geniuses, right, can't figure out in any fashion other than by first-person account who broke into their top-secret lab. Like, there's not a single solitary video camera posted in this entire building. Like, I have video cameras in my own house, and you're telling me this place has no cameras?
Right. No, that's. There are a lot of these moments in this movie that don't really make a lot of sense when you put an iota of thought towards it.
Mm.
And not that every movie has to be airtight. Certainly, look, it's a movie about sentient space goo that like merges with a man, right? So it doesn't need to be perfectly, 100% airtight.
Mm.
But you at least got to get me to suspend my disbelief with the small things,
right?
And having a competent security system is something that a lab like this might have. Mm. This is not like it's some ramshackle or operation in like the middle of nowhere, and we can't afford cameras because we're on a shoestring budget, and we, no one's supposed to be here anyways. We're in the middle of the desert or something.
Yeah.
Like, this is right by San Francisco. The guy's set out to be like an Elon Musk-ish kind of figure.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's sending rockets into space with regularity.
Yeah. It's
clearly that those are the things, and we're not just talking about the cameras, but the cameras is like a very easy way to it boils down to a very simple pinpoint. This movie didn't really make sense from like a logical point. It's hard for you to suspend your disbelief because there's always these things that are happening that don't quite work in a world that appears to be like ours.
See, and that it was from the get-go. I'm pretty sure both of us pointed it out afterwards. and I guess we can kind of rope this in. I think what I can probably talk the most about is inconsistency in this movie. That there are so many points of inconsistency that it just lost me.
Yes.
And they start out right at the beginning because we both, I think, were instantly confused because that spacecraft that flies in looks about 200 years into the future.
There's no craft on Earth
Yeah.
that has looked like that yet.
So I at first was like, are we getting a peek into the future? Is this movie set in the future?
Right.
And I mean, come to find out as we then see the Golden Gate Bridge and this evil lair built into a freaking mountain. I was like, oh God. I was like, nope, this is modern day. I don't know where the hell this craft came from. But it's like just like with the cameras, I'm going, this just doesn't make any sense.
Right. And you know what? Now that you mention it, like maybe just a setting change. Now this is something from later on in our conversation. But maybe like a time change might have made this make more sense.
Right.
If this had been set in like the early 80s or something, when there was maybe space exploration was more in the forefront, maybe set further back in the 70s, maybe something like, look, our security cameras are crappy. We can't tell who that is.
Right.
That would have been a very easy thing to kind of get past the first line of defense, right? The first level of a suspension of disbelief. Maybe that would have helped. I've got to think about that a little more. But I agree with you that there were these inconsistencies, and I will leave it there. I'm sure we're going to come back to more of it, so I'm going to let you drive us a little further down the road.
Well, I'll also go ahead and point out we can see it in your shot,
Mm-hmm.
so everybody doesn't think that I'm a crazy person. It is going to be Halloween next week, so the bloody candles next to you and like the corpse in the background, like that. These are decorations for a party. This is not. I'm not entirely insane.
Like this.
Yeah, it's year round. Okay, so next inconsistency that I will say is the nature of the symbiote. Okay, this was one that got me throughout the movie because at least in the beginning. At the outset, I guess before we know that it's called Riot, this first symbiote seems to be transferring to very specific people. Like it's walking around, going through crowds, picking out specific hosts. Like why else would you pick a tiny little white girl?
In Malaysia?
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, okay, I got a little picture. It seemed like the message we were getting even more so in the lab was that these hosts, it was like getting an organ transplant. You had to be an exact match, or else this thing would just kill you.
Eventually, it would kill you. Maybe not eventually. Very rapidly.
Fairly goddamn quickly, right? And I tell you what, by the end of the movie, I didn't know what the hell was going on with that premise because best I could tell, they could just go into anybody.
And it was any kind of long-term effects.
No, and it was like, okay, so why is Eddie special at this point? Because apparently this, Venom can go from him to a dog to his girlfriend, former fiance, and turn into sexy Venom. Like I was just like,
we got to come back to sexy Venom later.
So what are the rules by which these symbiotes play? Because it was one thing in the beginning and it was something completely different by the end of the movie.
So we've got to pause here because we have to talk about our theater experience because I think it's relevant here.
Right.
So there's an app, 1P. I'm going to give them a free shout out here because I use it when I go to.
It's fantastic, is what it is.
And like you'll pull it up and it'll tell you suggested P times to go use facilities, and it'll have like a short description of what happens. So it'll be like, oh, nothing's happening. It's just like a montage. You have about 90 seconds to go to the bathroom. Perfect. So I pulled up the P time for Venom, and the first thing I noticed was it talks about how there's 18 minutes of credits.
Wow.
And there's only, I want to say the movie's like 102 minutes or something.
Oh yeah.
Something like that. And that includes those credits. So like there's only like 90 minutes of like actual movie, give or take. So and I think that's a result of like some cuts that they made to try and make sure this movie was as lean as possible so you didn't fall into the well of wait, what are the rules?
Yeah.
But I think by cutting so much, you remove some of the things that might have, not to say that what they had was perfect, right? I'm not asking for a director's cut, although I think a better movie would have had 15 minutes where you would have done the things to strengthen this movie. Number one, setting the ground rules.
Right.
Maybe there was a sequence where they figured out who it was much earlier in the film because they saw who it was, and maybe that draft of the film they were like, look, we're not doing all that stuff. Get me something that's simpler. Give me the dumber one. Cut it. Cut it. And that's what we ended up with. So we had this movie that was just too lean to hit what I think it should have done, or what it needed to do to be an effective storytelling vehicle.
Right. Okay, so I will then go to another inconsistency that I'm pretty sure we also talked about. And again, it's okay for inconsistencies to crop up in things that aren't central to the story and things that are easy to overlook. But when it's like the central character, it's a problem. So Eddie Brock, right?
Eddie Brock.
So it seemed like we were supposed to, at least by the time Venom comes around, to view this guy as a freaking loser. Like a complete reject, failure. I mean, Venom even says as much. I mean, he says something along the lines of, we're both losers in our respective worlds, like complete pieces of crap. And I was like, how on earth do you expect me to believe this? Because at least for most of the movie, this guy's pretty well to do. He's dressed well, he lives in a pretty nice place in freaking San Fran. I imagine that can't be cheap.
No.
He has a baller job, he's well known. It like has a lot of his name's really out there in the public. He has a cute fiance right at the beginning of the movie, right? And I'm just like, and then I mean, he's well spoken, smart dude, and then all of a sudden he's out of his freaking mind, and he's an absolute idiot, And it's like they were trying, is maybe kind of what you're saying, because it was so lean, that we were supposed to figure, okay, well, he lost his job and lost his fiance, now all of a sudden he's a bum,
right?
And I'm like, eliminating those two things doesn't suddenly turn you into the biggest loser on the planet.
Right.
Like, he could get another job. I'm sorry, ladies, but he could get another girl. It was just like he went from being a smart dude to right after that big sequence where you see him and Venom together, and I can't exaggerate this. I laughed out loud in the theater when he went, "My legs were broken, and now they're not broken." I shit you not. Those are the words that came out of his mouth.
That's pretty much what he said.
And I was just like, who is this idiot?
Yeah.
And for the rest, it was like from that point on in the movie, even his voice was different. Like, it was like the director was like, okay, I need you to be a dumbass now. Like, I need you to drop the smart playboy act, and I need you to be a clueless idiot.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't buying it. I was like, you need to pick one, man.
Yeah.
I just didn't get it.
So that's why I kind of feel like there's a lot of cuts and rewrites and reshoots on this thing.
Yeah.
Because that first 20 minutes, it's not like he's... All right, so in the first 20 minutes, they like laid the groundwork of like, this is the fall of Eddie Brock. It happened before the symbiote ever showed up. He just... He makes a terrible decision to invade the privacy of his fiancée. He makes a terrible decision at work. It all kind of comes together, and he loses everything basically overnight. And then it fast forwards, I think, 6 months later, right?
Right.
And that's like the first 20 minutes is that, which I think is only supposed to say it used to be really good for Eddie Brock, but the afterwards doesn't really show you a bleak enough picture. Not that I want it to be a bleak picture, but this dude has a multi-room apartment in San Francisco, and like they show you him looking. He's circling jobs in the classifieds. Which, look, I don't know. Maybe that's something that people have to do, to scrape by. I guess he doesn't have a car, so he can't drive like an Uber or something.
Right.
So I guess it's a symbol of like, oh look, he's down on his luck. But people call this the gig economy. In the gig economy, that just kind of felt like normal, right?
Right.
like it wasn't like especially bad. Yeah, like his apartment was next to some kind of rock, like a rock enthusiast who was either playing music or playing
Mm-hmm.
his like MP3s loud, too loud. But like it's not indicative of like a crappy lifestyle.
Yeah, he's not in the slums. Like
right. Like they kept talking like, oh, this guy, what a piece of crap this guy is.
Yeah.
Oh, you used to be Eddie Brock, but like, to be honest, he was a scumbag beforehand.
right.
Like he's doing scummy things beforehand. He just happens to have this really classy fiance who has a wonderful job, and he happens to be on television.
Mm-hmm.
But you never get the impression that this dude is like, he's not like regarded, right? He's a person of note, but he's not that he's like an Alex Jones persona, but he's like a shock journalist.
He's definitely out there. Yeah, he's out there for shock value.
Right,
yeah.
he's a questionable figure before.
Right.
He just doesn't have like, he lost his fiance, lost his job, lost his house, and I guess lost his motorcycle. But maybe he still had it. I can't remember. But all right, so they're like, oh look, he's in a bar drinking. He's in his dive bar drinking. Plenty of people drink in dive bars. Right? Plenty of people work gig to gig. Plenty of people live in not great apartments, but a pretty good apartment by himself. Yep. And plenty of people like he was like known by like the homeless people. The people on the street, the common people knew him, and I think that was supposed to be like, look, he's down with these unwashed masses. But like, if you work a job where you're passing by like the same, some cities have like, oh, there's always that guy selling newspapers on the corner. So there's always that guy selling flowers or whatever. He's busking or whatever. Sometimes you might know those people if you work the same job for like he's been there for 6 months. Right. It's not crazy. It's not indicative of anything. And he gives the lady 5, so he's not like, it's not like he's like, I can't even afford to give this homeless person $1. Right? Yeah, they didn't actually bottom this guy out. There's almost like a plot thread of like him actually bottoming out and then having to go volunteer to be one of these test subjects just so he can like pay for his rent or something.
But it's funny that you say that, because that is exactly what I was expecting.
Yeah,
I thought that was going to be the bridge, that he knew that homeless woman right outside his place. Right? I think it was outside his place.
Either that or
nearby at least.
The market.
Yeah,
it's right where we were.
And I was thinking that was what was going to happen. We were going to show this guy completely down on his luck, and he was going to be looking through the classifieds and find an ad for the testing.
There you go.
That made sense to me, and it just didn't happen.
Line to me.
It didn't happen.
Yeah.
So another inconsistency that I mean, it's not like the movie had to choose, but I will say the movie didn't seem to know whether it wanted to be space alien Deadpool or whether it wanted to be scary, like a terrifying picture. Because like the Venom character, like the suit, I guess you call whatever the hell you call that when it takes him over. Yeah. It was pretty imposing and frightening looking. Sure. Like you could have made this into a terrifying film, and there were points in the movie where he's dashing around through the smoke, and it was kind of reminding you of the first Dark Knight movie where he's like coming out of nowhere, this terrifying fiend that nobody knows where he is.
Sure, good call. I like that.
But at the same time, I would have been perfectly fine, because there was a lot of funny stuff in this movie. A lot of really funny stuff that you could have done Space Alien Deadpool and just had a bunch of gags, have it be super violent and gory, over the top. Yeah. A lot of like fourth wall breaking stuff, and that would have been cool too. But they just never, it's not that they didn't necessarily pick one, it's that they never took either, they never chose one or did enough with them to make it really that entertaining.
You kind of had to commit to at least one of them to really hit the high notes that would have made you remember. And then when this sequence happened, that's my favorite part of the movie. Or like, man, I was really scared when the symbiote took him over and he was like menacing that homeless woman that I actually cared about because there was a connection there. And now like, but it almost was like it's part of that like that rewrite cut phase that I think you're seeing the signs of. I think there was someone who wrote a horror treatment of this, several horror treatments of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the same, they didn't leave this to the production studio, but I think someone was like, no, that Deadpool is really cool. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, let's try and do both of them. I kind of like all of that.
Yeah.
And so you saw the moments where, there's a sequence where he's taking on the SWAT team members.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, this idea is really cool, but this sequence itself is kind of underwhelming.
Right.
You can't really see what's going on, and you kind of know that no one's really in danger.
Yeah.
They kind of tell you. There's like maybe it was a voice added, ADR added afterwards, but I think Venom's about to like name someone, and Eddie's like, no, you can't kill cops.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of like, well, I think it's towards the end of the sequence, to be fair, but like you don't really see him like destroying people. You don't really see him like ripping someone's head off. That you're like, oh my god, this thing's out of control. Like, this never gets to the point where it's like the raptors in the high grass. Like anyone who's in this area is about to get torn apart.
Right.
It never gets to that, and it's never at the when the humorous moments happen. It's so I think there are funny moments that happen earlier in the film, but you're not there to see like the wacky hijinks of Eddie Brock, right?
Yeah.
You're there to see Venom, admittedly, which has a humorous edge to it. You want that character to be doing the humor, or at least be involved in the humor.
Mm-hmm.
So Venom doesn't show up to like over halfway through the movie.
Yep.
So if they were going for the humor, I don't really care if there's some funny exchange with a side character, right? I want to see the Tom Hardy represented character Venom doing something funny, saying something funny, or like they did, like you're seeing right now. They had Tom Hardy acting against, I guess, himself and as Venom, which I also think was a mistake.
Yep.
We can talk about that later, but
oh god,
they waited too long to introduce Venom, so you couldn't have the humorous stuff in the movie because it took too long to get there.
Yeah.
And when it starts happening, it's almost like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Like when they like the bad guys come to like, get him, they burst in his apartment. I'm like, where is it? Where is it? And you know that he's already got the symbiote inside. They don't know it, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever. And he starts like slapping people around and throwing them against walls, and the tendrils of venomness are coming out and slapping people around. Yeah. And it's kind of a fun sequence. I'm not going to take anything away from it. But like Venom starts doing like Mortal Kombat commentary. Like,
finish him.
Like he slaps the guy away, and Venom's like, outstanding.
And something I was just
what in the world is that?
Something I just thought of because I was looking at the pictures that I have here that I can load up. So one thing they keep talking about is him biting off heads, and
let's bite everyone's head off and stick him in the corner.
If this is how this suit, if this is how Venom encapsulates him, so that Eddie's face is right behind his.
Right.
Where's that head going?
Look
into Eddie's mouth, because I'm not understanding the physics of this right here.
So this is one of the problems when you cut a lot of the explanation stuff, but you still want it to be like a semi-realistic movie. Mm-hmm. If this had been a live-action cartoon, you wouldn't have thought twice about it.
Right.
And if this had been like, we're going to stick straight to the comic books, they would have made a bigger deal about like, this is a permanent symbiotic relationship. There is no more Eddie Brock. There is no more symbiote. They are one entity. We are Venom. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't think about like, all right, it might look like Eddie Brock, but really this is a different organism that's no longer human.
Yeah.
Maybe there's like a hard body science deal where like you would see like Tom Hardy like unhinge his jaw and but like that sounds crazy and that could have been really funny, but that also could have been like horrifying. And like he's like, what is it going to take to keep us alive? And Venom's like, let me take over. And like you watch him, like his body like name itself isn't like there
could have been cool.
There are these horror moments that could have been cool,
right?
But here's where we got it. I don't care if the movie's G or rated MA, but this desperately needed to be an R-rated movie.
Oh, for sure.
If it was going to do this or the things we're talking about, this had to be R-rated.
Mm-hmm.
If this was going to be a live action cartoon, you could have done some PG-13 stuff.
Yeah.
But the way it is, you never quite get the scope and scale of how dangerous this thing is, what it can really do, because when it's like laying into people, it can't show it.
Right.
Right. It can't.
Got to cut away. Exactly.
When like the security team is like after him, like if you really want to do like a horrific thing, you gotta have like Venom like biting people's heads off,
Mm-hmm.
or like if you want it to be funny, right? Maybe he like rips somebody's bones out and like beats somebody up with the bones. Which is like, it sounds crazy, but not that crazy for Venom, for the source material.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. Like, I was looking at some of the promotional material, and it's accurate to what I understand. The character, the comic book character, was like, the idea is he's an anti-hero. He's a fucking bad guy. You know?
Yeah,
this
dude.
Is not,
this is not a straight up good guy.
And it was like we needed. It's because it kept cutting away. It felt like we don't want to make this thing look too bad. We want him to be likable. Right. We really want to up his likability. I'm like, I don't think we're supposed to like him. Like, this guy is supposed to be a terror. Yeah.
Well, this is part of that, like the missing direction.
Yeah.
A stronger writer, stronger director, stronger producer would have set out, here's what we're going for.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is, and they would pick a figure or a story, like, we're going to make it like this. We want everyone to be tense, but we want everyone who's like an innocent. And it's kind of what the comic book does. He becomes the lethal protector.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like, he is the champion of the downtrodden. He does, try to avoid killing people who are hurting people at all, who, can't stick up for themselves. So you'll see, like, Venom will, like, befriend a lot of homeless folks. And when, like, the big bad evil corporations of Marvel show up, like, he's there to be like, wait a second, don't mess with my friends who are in the slums. I'm going to take care of them. You're going to mess with them, you're going to mess with me.
Okay.
But there's still like years of...
It took a while to get to that point. They just tried to wrap it all in one film.
Right, because remember, folks, Venom is a Spider-Man villain that took a very long time to get to, one, being Venom, and then two, being the Venom that is popular as like an anti-hero.
Yeah.
And I will give a short comic book lesson here.
Mm-hmm.
One of the earliest major crossover events, in fact, it might be the first Marvel one, is Secret Wars, which is a very dubious origin. Basically, Marvel did like a test group with some kids and said, what are popular words with you? And they said secret and wars. So they said, bam, Secret Wars. And they came up with the idea like, oh, we're going to do this massive crossover. We're going to put these characters, we're going to take our most popular characters, we're going to put them on this planet called Battle World. We're going to have this crazy new setting, and we're going to have like new sets. They're going to drive crazy alien vehicles, and we'll go to the toy company. We'll make new suits for the character. We'll make toys that have various suits. We'll be selling them sets. It's going to be a huge moneymaker for Marvel. Now, Secret Wars is very dated, but I think it's pretty good. Like a lot of that stuff from that era, it doesn't read like you expect it to read. Mm-hmm. But Spider-Man is one of the good guys who is along for the ride. And very early on, Mr. Fantastic has to cannibalize his web shooters to make a device to get them out of the bad guys drop a mountain range on them, literally a mountain range.
Jesus, okay.
And Mr. Fantastic takes a bunch of stuff along with Iron Man, I believe, and he like wires up this like device to like blow a hole in something, or something to that effect. So you have a Spider-Man that doesn't have his web shooters, and everyone over the course of I think it's 12 issues, their clothes get tattered and they run out of gear. And Hawkeye has to like whittle down new like rods for his arrows.
Okay. So,
and in one issue later on, Thor comes out and all his stuff is brand new. Spider-Man's like, hey, where'd you get all your cape was all torn up. Where'd you get the new cape? Mm-hmm. So there's a machine in the other room. It just made me a new suit. You can go in there and do it. So Spider-Man's like, oh, perfect. And he runs in there, and this room is full of machinery. He doesn't know which one it is. And he goes up to one of them, and he says, oh, this must be it. And he says, all right, make me a new suit. And this black ball comes out. And it touches him, and it becomes the black suit. And for a couple of years, that was just what Spider-Man's suit was. And it didn't have web shooters. The suit was some kind of he knew it was not. It wasn't like a robot, right?
Right.
He knew it was something, but he didn't necessarily know that it had a consciousness, and it would make webbing for him. He shot out the back of his hands.
Okay.
So if there is a couple of years of Spider-Man, you go back and look at your old comics, you'll have Spider-Man in a black suit that looks like the Venom suit. And I think MJ was a big fan of the black suit. Whatever. Spider-Man figured out that the suit was alive.
Oh, wow.
And it would he couldn't take it off, but he didn't need to. It would just rejigger itself into different clothes. So if he's I need to wear a suit today, it would turn to a suit.
Yeah.
So I need to wear jeans and a t-shirt. It would turn to jeans and a t-shirt.
Damn. Okay.
So it was he never thought I need to get rid of this thing because it was awesome.
Hell yeah.
I didn't have to make web fluid again, right? I used to Spider-Man all the time. So he figured out the thing was alive, and he was taking his body on joyrides when he slept.
Oh, damn. Okay.
So he's yo, this is bad. And then he started to engage with it, and this might be a little fuzzy, but basically told him, we've been bonded for so long. After a certain point, we're not just gonna be bonded perfectly. I'm gonna take your body over. Bye Peter Parker. It's just me now.
Oh, wow.
At the same time, they're doing this deal where the character Eddie Brock is a journalist, and he's he basically he thinks he's got this scoop. He turns out he doesn't have the scoop, and Spider-Man kind of blows his scoop, and it turns out he basically he went forward with a false story. So it kind of ruins his career, and he blames Spider-Man for it. So Eddie Brock goes to church, and he's maybe he's contemplating well, what am I supposed to do now? Am I supposed to just kill myself or whatever? And remember, he hates Spider-Man more than anything in the world. And Spider-Man's trying to get this suit off him, and he's I can't get it off me. And he's sound's the way to do it. And he figures out if I'm going to he hits the bell for the, it's not exactly how it goes now, but he hits the bell for the church, the big bell, and it emits massive sound waves, and it stuns the symbiote, and it falls off of him, and it saves Peter Parker. And you think, oh, he's safe. But as the symbiote falls down, it falls into Eddie Brock. And now the suit's oh, Peter Parker, I hate your guts. And Eddie Brock's I hate Spider-Man.
Hey, me too.
and the suit's wait a second, I know Peter Parker is Spider-Man, now you do too. So you have these two characters that hate Spider-Man merge into one.
Right.
And they already weren't stable to start with. So you got this character, Venom, that's incredibly threatening because they know the secret of Spider-Man. I think even I think this Spider-Man Spider Sense doesn't work against Venom. So there is this look, this guy can be anywhere. He can be threatening my Aunt May. He knows all my secrets.
Yeah.
He knows how I work. He's bigger than me. So it's a very threatening character. And then eventually, when he becomes more popular, they add in, well, maybe he only eats bad guys. Right?
Yeah, right.
But that probably took 3-4 minutes for me to go through that story. That's years of continuity.
Jeez,
so to skip all the way towards this Venom is someone you're supposed to cheer for. That's all right, you don't have to stick to the comic books. I know Sony doesn't even have the rights to do solo Spider-Man movies right now, I don't think. But this character they're shooting for there is no playbook for how to get to that character without the Spider-Man stuff, right? Yeah. So it almost needed to be a whimsical live-action cartoon or no, this is terrible, everybody needs to run kind of deal.
Yeah. Oh, no kidding. Well, and I think it was after the movie you were pointing out I guess the way he is in real life. I actually found a picture on the this was the craziness I guess they skipped over. Crazy Eddie Brock skipped over. Wow. So this is him tatted up for real in real life. Yeah. So yeah, we skipped over Crazy Man entirely.
Yeah. That's, I'm looking back on I first thought Tom Hardy was a weird choice for Eddie Brock when I heard it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But I've seen some interviews with Tom Hardy, and he does have like a real edge to him about his real life. From some of his drug use, some of his wilder days. He's not shy about talking about. He's not fond of.
Yeah.
I do find it very weird that they didn't channel that.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree. As soon as you told me that, I was like, man, that actually, and that's why I went to try and find some kind of photo representative of it, because I was like, I didn't know that. I'd never heard that. I was like, man, that would actually been pretty cool to have him channel that. I guess that his past, you know, some actual experiences in his life.
Yeah, Eddie Brock could have been like hooked on like serious drugs, or he could have been like, you know, maybe he suffered. Maybe his fall was like he got injured doing his like shock interview style,
right?
And he got hooked on opioids, and like he's dealing with the withdrawals, and he's got to get he's desperate to get, you know, he's desperate to either get clean or get another hit, and he answers the call for the testing.
Yep,
you know,
needs the money.
New medical testing with a pharmaceutical company. These things seem to work better than what we got.
I think that kind of gets my mind on just the. I don't know if there's a heading I can put it all under, but just bits and pieces of it that were just a combination of flawed writing, to me at least, and just a very strange, I'll just say direction, as in the act of directing.
Yes.
So I will start with something very basic.
Okay.
We were talking about the nerds here. And on the left is this particular character that has the, you know, change of heart, you know, has a conscience.
Yeah.
And breaks Eddie into the lab, you know. And of course, Eddie is so brilliant. That was his first dumb moment when he shattered that glass. I was like, yeah, because clearly the containment area wasn't trying to contain anything, right? Yes. So back to nerds. Her name, when she first said it, when I first heard her name, I thought that she said Doris Girth, like girthy. And I was like, Doris Girth, man, that's a hell of a name. Yeah. This sounds like a porn star, but
like then Austin Powers girl,
right? And you come to find out later in the movie, no, her name is Dora Skirth. You see it written on her badge, and I was like, I know that's something really little, but if it confused me instantly the moment I heard it, how did nobody in the room go, maybe we should pick another name that's a little bit easier to understand and to say? It was like something so simple. I was like, this is a shitty name. Like,
maybe. I've never met anyone named Skirth. Maybe because I saw Riz Ahmed, I thought she was like, I thought maybe she was Middle Eastern or maybe Pakistani or something. So when she listed her name as, you know, I heard Doris first. I'm shocked to learn it was Dora.
Yeah.
But Dora Skirth, I was like, why?
I know, right? Right. It made no sense to me either. And I guess I already pointed out the physics of the face. I'm not even going to go there. I will say also with some of the acting, I just talk about deadpan. I thought Michelle was basically deadpan the entire movie. It was. I
think I have to disagree.
Really?
I really like. So I'm a sucker for Michelle Williams. I think she's a really talented actress.
Yeah. And
I was kind of sad that she was just like the girl in this.
Yeah.
And then she like gets to be Venom.
Dude.
Spoilers, right? She gets to be Venom for like a little bit, and I instantly was like, stop everything. That's the movie I care about more.
I 100% agree. As soon as I saw that, I was like, can we just let Eddie be, you know, the girl in this movie? Can he be the side character? Because I think she would kick more ass personally.
But it's also more. I don't understand the Eddie Brock character. Like, I don't understand what his job was supposed to be. I don't understand. Like, people talk about him like with regard. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
But she is actually she's very successful in her career. She's well adjusted, and she has access to a lot of like information that is like protected information, sensitive information.
Yeah.
So the story of like this corporate attorney who, I don't know, maybe has like this chance occurrence and ends up like stuck with this parasite, He's like, well, what am I supposed to do with it?
Mhm.
And she's like, well, my client just sued this mega corporation. You know, maybe they're going to win however much money, but the people who really made this, like, the people who dumped the toxins in this town's water, they got to pay.
Yeah,
and it's not good enough. They're just going to do this in another town.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, a whole sequence where she's, like, breaking into, like, a secure tower and, like, taking a CEO, like, who's... You know, he's got mountains of cocaine. He doesn't care about anything. And he's like, oh, you know, can't wait to do this to the next town. And she, like, breaks in and has, like, a sweet, like, exchange where she's condemning him and, like, throws him out of, like, a tower. That's, like, way more interesting than anything we got.
No kidding.
Way more interesting. I can't think of any characters in fiction who are both female and, like, have the questionable ethics and are allowed to do that and be the protagonist of the story.
Yeah,
completely. Like, give Aaron Brockovich the symbiote suit.
Hell
That's
yeah.
like $1 billion idea. Oh my god.
Man. Yeah, no kidding. I think that would have been a better direction.
Oh my god. I'm actually mad we didn't get that now.
Yeah. So another character that I just thought, the level of kind of ridiculous evil genius that they made this guy. What was it, Clark? What was it? What was his name? I can't even remember.
Oh, I can't remember.
I don't even remember. But it didn't matter. He was just the evil genius.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was so laughable to the point. I mean, it was to the point of like Batman versus Superman, you know, with Eisenberg's rendition of Lex Luthor. It was just like, I don't know. I found it comical. The level to which this guy was being portrayed as an evil genius with absolutely no regard for human life. Because I was just like,
Carlton Drake.
Carlton Drake. Okay, there was the things he was doing and saying. You just couldn't get away with. Like, you know, it's like you couldn't do all of the things he was doing and somehow get away with it. Because it's not like he had a small inner circle that knew what he was doing. The whole team knew it. Everybody is standing around watching these homeless people get essentially tortured to death. So I just don't. At no point did I understand that.
I think we might need to pause it here, Ben.
Oh, it's just a delivery. You guys are witnessing a delivery at my house.
Sorry
at
about
the studio. Pardon me. We're at a very high tech recording studio.
State of the art studio.
Obviously, yeah.
So about Risen Man, I agree. I actually really like that actor.
Yeah.
So I was like kind of hopeful. Like maybe we'll get a cool kind of compelling visual villainous performance from him. And he was like this mustache twirling evil. Like this.
It was like a old vintage 007 Bond.
Oh my god,
villain.
that's exactly what it was.
Right?
He was the movie that had the Bond movie that had Christopher Walken as the bad guy.
Oh my lord, yeah.
Drax.
Oh god,
I think his name was Drax. He was like gonna flood California or something. He's something bananas like that.
Something ridiculous.
But like that's basically what this guy was.
Yeah. The
scope of what he was doing and what he was trying to do, and how like everyone who was on his staff like knew like we're setting up the Moonraker rocket, or we're doing something that's unquestionably evil.
Yeah.
And maybe on the back end of it, we do something good.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, it's not that he got to do like cool villainous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that he got to do stuff like a Bond villain would do.
Right.
For the most part, he was just like talking to people, and occasionally he'd be like, "Have the person killed."
Yeah, exactly.
But like, he never had like the I'm thinking Bond here.
Mm-hmm.
Goldfinger at least like straps Bond to like the chair, the table, and is like turns the laser on him. He's like, "I'm gonna cut you in half," and you get the great exchange. "Oh, you expect me to talk? Oh, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die." And he walks off. You never have like that. I guess they kind of try that with Dr. Skirth, but she's just kind of killed off screen. Like they never gave you like that moment where you're like, "Ooh, I when this guy's around, I'm really excited because I don't know what he's gonna do, or I know he's gonna do something that's really dastardly. And I can't wait till he gets his." I just kind of I wish he was something else.